Hey guys, welcome back to this video here, and I want to talk about the procedural vegetation editor inside Unreal Engine 5.8, which has been released also in 5.7. And the reason why I skipped this entirely during the process of creating my own Witcher 4 type of spruce tree. So I wanted to go for really high quality and really beautiful looking spruce tree, and this cluster is pretty similar when you look in detail on the Witcher 4. So you look at those trees. This is something I gained reference from. So you can see I was just creating a small plane, make this really long and skinny, and then the tip and also the root a little smaller so we can attach it, and also the tip is going to look a little better. And for the cylinder in the center, you can see it's just the twig, the cylinder. Extrude this by a lot and then just attaching it. And yes, I was handcrafting it. And now you think hey, why don't you just use GeoNodes for this? Yes, I could have used GeoNodes for that. The problem is you can spend a lot of time until you have the right setup for GeoNodes, and then it's already 1 hour, 2 hours gone. And so I was no, I want to have full 100% artistic control of my cluster. And once I have my first cluster handcrafted, I can use this one as a copy and get different versions, just rotating. This means just for the second type and the third type, the fourth type, I can then scale leaves differently, rotate each leaf differently, and it's not that time consuming, to be honest. It just took me maybe 1 hour, 1.5 hours to create 4 clusters, and we're ready to go. So it's not really that bad, to be honest, and I'm quite satisfied. And here I'm just getting a quick preview here for the material I just created inside Substance Painter, and I will show you how I created this one inside Substance Painter. Now back in Substance Painter, you can see I focused on the twig. So I just started with the base color. The first one you can see on the bottom right hand side. And the base color is just something almost reddish brown base color, and a higher roughness value because the branch is not really reflective, so higher roughness value. And then I just copied this one and gave myself a brighter color, just less red, more yellowish. I added a directional grunge map, a so-called directional noise. Just put this inside a mask, and then I was rotating this 90 degrees, and then I played with a level, just added a level on top and make this a little sharper. And you need to play with the tiling until you have a nice directional grunge, and then you can use this as an overlay. You can sharpen it, as you can see here, and then also add a height channel. So you might just want to maybe bump up the height channel a little bit to get this nice normal effect later on if you want to, but it's not really necessary. And yeah, just simple a simple twig material I just created for this one. You can see here the height channel. I was just using a slight bump here to make it more believable. Then I just inverted the mask of this cluster to only have the leaves or the needles being affected, and I used an ambient occlusion generator, so I was just baking the mesh maps for that. If you bake this needle cluster or any type of mesh in general, make sure that you have no overlapping UV islands. This is pretty self-explanatory. But then I just baked this one, curvature and ambient occlusion is pretty important, and so I can mask out basically everything which is really close together, and vice versa. And then I started with the basic yellow greenish tint or color, and like I said, I'm using a mask later to only have the needles being affected and not the twig itself. So I'm just creating a folder later, and you can put everything inside the folder. And when you put a mask inside the folder, this is how you can basically mask out the needles from the twig and still have grunge maps and generators inside your folder. And on top of that, also for the needles, I added a directional noise and give it also a different color. And you can sharpen the directional noise, so you need to rotate this 190 degrees. The mask, basically your directional noise mask, rotate this 190 degrees, and you can then just play around with the tiling to get nice directional noise. And also on top of it, I was using the levels to make it a little sharper, and like I said, giving a different color. So always in between something like green, yellow and red is something like this. And yeah, just giving it different roughness values. For each color I have some different roughness values, just to make this one believable. Then back into SpeedTree, I started by creating a trunk. So you need to extrude this one. You can do that under the spine section, just increase the absolute. Then for the material, you can see that this one is displaced. This is really important to displace the bark material. So you can click on the material section, you can choose the material, and then on the right hand side you need to create a material. Okay, just get the height, base color, normal, and ambient occlusion. And under segments, when you switch on top from render to scribed, you can see your resolution. Under the segments you can increase the scalar, and then you can displace this one. You need to go to displacement tab and switch to material and use UVs, and here you can then decide your UV. So please make sure that you have a nice displacement for your trunk, otherwise your tree is gonna look horrible. Then I went into the skin. Here you can make this really skinny, or maybe a little more in radius, and you can always click on the curve next to that, and this is where you can make this, like for example, really skinny on the bottom or on the top. You can further change it with the curve also. This is pretty important. So yeah, I really like this skinny, like really long and skinny type of trunk. Then just right click and add a branch. And for the branch, I used the classic distribution. Under generation, you can use the classic distribution. And under boundaries, you can set the first and last. This means the range where the branch is getting distributed. And then you can play with the gravity and the orientation. This is all under the spine section. And this is where you can bend the branches. So you give this nice upper bend, and the gravity just pull this down a little bit to get this like dead feel. But you need to play around inside the spine section until you're satisfied with your branches. Make them also a little more skinny. Inside the skin section, you can make them a little more skinny. Now this is pretty important. When you right click on the branch, get little branches. And then when you click on one of those little branches, it's a little more complex here, but when you click on skin, you need to set this one to spine only. And then those twigs are gone, those little branches. They are not visible anymore because we want to use a mesh instead. So we are using basically now the spine of our little branches and attaching those small needle clusters we just imported. So just in case if you're wondering how to import this, on the right hand side you can click on mesh and then import your mesh. And also under materials you can add a material, and then you add basically the material from for the mesh. And you need to go back on the left hand side under the material section for the mesh, and under the material and under the mesh section you choose the right mesh and then also the right material. It's pretty simple to do, and once you have it, the mesh should appear. Then it's all about fine-tuning basically. You need to find the right alignment, the gravity, and they need to face down. So yeah, you need to make this look beautiful. And this is really tricky, I understand. Once you attach your own clusters, so your own meshes, you want to make this look good. You need to have a really nice alignment. And this is where you need to go back to your little twigs, so little branches. You need to adjust the rotation, the orientation. You need to take your time until all your needle clusters are perfectly aligned. And also the distribution method is pretty important. Under the generation section, once you export your tree, you need to go to the file and then export mesh. And this is pretty important. First of all, you want to make sure that you have also the bones. I'm gonna show you how to attach bones also. So you need to click on your trunk, and then under physics, you can see now the absolute, and then increase the bones basically. You need to do the same for branch. Just go to physics section, hit absolute and increase the bones, and then you can see also the bones. Just to show bones on top, you can click on show and reveal the bones, just to make sure. Don't go too crazy here with the bones, but then you can just export your mesh. You need to enable geometry and the bones, okay? And you need to enable hierarchy. This is pretty important during the export. So enable hierarchy, and also next to a mesh, you need to also enable the bones. And this is basically it. And export this one as an FBX first. You can see here. And later you need to export the same stuff, but as an XML format. When you export this separately as an XML format, you need to disable the geometry. You only need the bones. And I will explain to you in detail why you also need the XML only with the bones selected and the geometry being disabled inside the mesh export, okay? Back inside Unreal Engine 5.8, I already set up the tree I created, but I will just show you now in detail what you need to do. Once you have your FBX tree from SpeedTree 10, you did enable also next to the geometry, also the bones I told you. And you set also the hierarchy and not the material, the hierarchy. This is pretty important. Then you can just simply drag and drop your FBX from SpeedTree into Unreal Engine 5.8. Unreal Engine is gonna know this is a skeleton mesh. You don't need to set this one during the import. The only thing you might need to change is maybe the alignment. Maybe your tree is gonna lay down, face down. Then you need to rotate this on the x-axis by 90 degrees, okay? Then just delete this one, re-import, and add 90 degrees on the x-axis during import. This is obviously the only thing you need to do. Besides that, only have the bark material and also the needle material. You're also gonna have 2 material slots because inside SpeedTree, you remember, we use the bark material for trunk and branches, and we set up a different material for the mesh we attached. So our cluster we did inside Blender. So we also have next to our skeleton mesh, we're gonna have 2 material slots automatically also. This is all done by Unreal Engine. And then just hook up the bark material from your SpeedTree is gonna get an export automatically also. You don't need to tile or change anything, just hook up what you get from SpeedTree here. And then you need to go to Edit, Preferences, and search for Nanite Foliage and enable Nanite Foliage, also pretty important. When you open up your skeletal mesh, your tree, you need to go to Nanite, you can see here, and under Nanite you need to enable Nanite Support, and down there you need to put this to voxelize and then apply. This is pretty important. Otherwise it's not gonna work. And now you can see I have many trees scattered and I'm still hitting 50 to 60 FPS without any problems. When you get really close, your FPS might gonna drop a little bit, but still it's really smooth. And I'm scattering here maybe like 300 or 400 trees, and each of those trees is 5 million tries. Now I'm gonna tell you how to create this transform provider. Unreal Engine is going to create a transform provider, but we need a Python script for this, and for the Python script we need to choose a JSON file. I will link this one for download. You get this file you can see here. This is the Python script. Pretty simple stuff. You only need to change the path. So game would be your content folder, and then slash, and then the tree. So if you have another folder in between, then it's not /game, it would be /game / then your folder name / and then the exact name of your skeletal mesh. But I only have /game / and then black_spruce. So this is what you need to paste inside this Python script file, okay? So please make sure that this one is correct. And then you can just get this whole Python script. Python should already be enabled by default. I did not need to activate this, okay? You just go to Tools and then type in Python and then execute Python script. And you're gonna choose the Python file. Then it's gonna open up a new window and you need to choose the black spruce wind data. And once you have the black spruce wind data, he's gonna attach all the bones to this skeleton mesh, to your own skeleton mesh. But here's the problem. I will give you my JSON file, but obviously you're gonna have different bone names. But what you can do is you can go to Claude AI or you can go to Grok or ChatGPT. This is pretty simple. You can upload the file, the JSON, and also the Python file, and you can explain to Claude AI or to Grok to please update the JSON file and use all the bone names you have from your XML. I told you previously you need to export not only the FBX with geometry and bones as a hierarchy during the export, but after that you also need a separate file which is being called, the format is the XML. So this XML file you can just go to AI and add this XML file, so your own XML file. And inside this XML file, there will be all the bone names for your tree. And once you give it to Claude AI, so in my case I use Claude AI, you just attach your own XML file, and you're also going to use my JSON file. You can just download this one, like I told you previously. And here's the text for you. Just get this text here. He's going to update the JSON file according to your XML file. So he's just overwriting my bone names to your bone names, and he's going to give it to you as a download. So this is pretty easy. Just execute this Python script basically. You don't really need to do anything here. It's pretty simple to do. So inside Claude AI, I created a text for you, which is, please use the XML document attached and create a JSON file. So the XML document you export from your speed tree, okay? Pretty important. And create a JSON file for me, which is ready to open inside Unreal Engine 5 to execute for Python. It is a bone hierarchy from speed tree, and you need to prepare the JSON file to use it for the transform provider inside Unreal Engine 5 to add bone-driven wind animation. Then just add something like, just update the JSON file as a reference. I'm just giving you a JSON file reference. So my file, this one is my file. You can attach it also and tell Claude AI or Grok or ChatGPT, here is the JSON as a reference. Just use this one as a reference and update this JSON file and use my bone names from my XML file. And this is basically it. He's gonna write this one down. It's pretty simple. And you can just download this JSON file. And then I will explain to you how you can create your own transform provider. Once you have your JSON file, go to Tools and open up the Python, execute Python script. Get your Python file, and then Unreal Engine is gonna open up a window and then get the JSON, your JSON file. You can see the output log, and when you click on the output log and scroll all the way down, you can see in green, this is basically the command you started, and everything underneath is your output log. So if there's something which is not gonna work, you're gonna get an error, just copy this one, okay? And you can use this one for the AI, just copy and paste this one into AI, and he's gonna fix it. He's gonna tell you what to fix, and he's gonna update the JSON file for you. And then after success, you're gonna have a transform provider. This will be created next to your skeletal mesh. And inside this transform provider, you're gonna have all the bone names, basically your bone names from your XML file, from speed tree. And then what you need to do, just right click, get a blueprint, a basic actor blueprint, and call this one, for example, BP_tree or something. Open this one up, and once you open up your blueprint, actor blueprint, just open this one up. Then go to add a instanced skinned mesh. I called mine Spruce 1, and on the right hand side, after you click on it, you need to choose your tree, your skeletal tree. The materials should be hooked up automatically, and then you would get the transform provider you just created or you just got from the Python script. And you can drag and drop this one into the transform provider. One last thing you need to do, you need to scroll all the way down, and there's something called instances. Just click on the plus. So you need to have an instance slot, and you should have a wind. So go to your engine folder, okay, not content, but engine folder, and search for the global foliage. Okay, this is pretty important that you search inside the engine. And once you search for global foliage, you're gonna have two types, but it's the second one. When you hover over it, the path is being called Procedural Vegetation Editor. So you need to get this one and just drag and drop this one inside your level. And once you click on this BP, this blueprint, you can increase the speed, the wind speed. So every single time you're gonna place your tree as the blueprint, so you need to place the blueprint, you can now use this global foliage wind. Then you're gonna have your wind. And this is all being done without using any procedural vegetation editor asset or something. We created our own skeletal tree, our own bone hierarchy, and we used a Python script And yes, it sounds a little intimidating, but like I said, just get my Python file and get the JSON file, and you also need your XML file, like I said, from SpeedTree, and just give it ChatGPT or Grok or Claude AI. You only need to give him the XML exported from SpeedTree, and next to that you give it a JSON file, the JSON file you downloaded from my link inside the description, and you're just gonna tell him, hey, use this JSON as a reference, but you need to make sure that you get all my bone names, the bone hierarchy, from my XML file, and just update the JSON. That's basically it. And one last thing, again, for the Python, you only need to change the path, okay? This is what I told you previously. Under /game/ you need to have the right path. So if you have your skeleton mesh inside a separate folder, inside your content, maybe your folder is being called tree or I don't know what, then your path needs to be updated to /game/tree if this is your folder, and then the name of your skeleton mesh. He needs to find your skeleton mesh, and then you can basically use this skeleton mesh and apply the bone hierarchy on top of it. This is basically it. This is just a way on how to avoid the annoying procedural vegetation editor and have now endless freedom and create your speed tree, like your favorite tree, and have full artistic freedom. You can now use the nanite foliage voxelization and can spawn endless trees. Use this global foliage actor as a blueprint to define your wind intensity. If you want to paint inside foliage, just right click, get an actor foliage, okay? And once you open up this actor foliage, you can now disable align to normal. This is pretty important. And then you can add your BP under actor class. Just add your BP_tree. And you need to set your mobility to movable. Also pretty important. Then just save. Now you have your blueprint inside an actor foliage. Then just go to foliage and you can drag and drop this actor foliage into the foliage mode. Click on that. Now you can paint a lot of trees. So let me paint a bunch of trees here, and you can see everything is fine. When I go back to selection, everything is smooth, and you need to remember we have now bone-driven wind. Without using Procedural Vegetation Editor, we can now completely focus on creating our own trees inside SpeedTree or maybe Blender. Doesn't really matter, but of course I advise you to use SpeedTree for the bones. And we converted our own bones into a skeleton mesh without using the Procedural Vegetation Editor. And with a Python script, pretty quick, we created our own transform provider, now having our own wind. So now everything is nanite foliage voxelized, and now we have endless freedom. And yeah, thanks for watching.